Well, good morning. Here it is. It's Friday. We've made it to the end of another week. It doesn't seem possible that this week has gone by this fast, but it has. And of course, today is November the 15th. I hope you had a great Thursday. I hope that you were able to kind of ease through the day, and hopefully we're ready for, this Friday and on to the weekend. But anyway, now God He's blessed us, with the breath to breathe here on this Friday morning and right on the threshold of another weekend. And anyway, I certainly hope and pray, that this morning finds you feeling well. Hope that you're well rested and now ready to tackle the opportunities that God has blessed us with here on this Friday morning. This morning, I'd like to share a devotional with you entitled "Nothing is Impossible." In Exodus chapter 13, verse 14, it says this: "And in the future, your children will ask you, 'What does all this mean?' Then you will tell them, 'With the power of His mighty hand, the Lord brought us out of Egypt, the place of our slavery.'" Have you ever, been in a situation, where, the only way out was God? In other words, if God didn't come through for you, you were dead in the water. Maybe it was a report from a doctor who said, "Well, I'm sorry, there's nothing more that we can do for you." Or maybe it was a financial catastrophe, that had you on the brink of collapse. Maybe it was the death of a loved one, when you thought, "Well, I cannot survive this." That's the type of situation the Israelites faced, in Exodus chapter 13. God had delivered them from Egypt and He was leading them to the promised land. But the problem was they were, being chased by, the powerful Egyptian army, and their escape route was blocked by the Red Sea. And so they found themselves, in a seemingly impossible situation. They were trapped between an unconquerable army and an impassable sea. The good news. Well, it was God was leading them. Luke chapter 1, verse 37, it says, "For with God nothing will be impossible." You see, God parted the sea, and the Israelites, they escaped and did that on dry ground. Have you ever looked up the phrase "but God" in the Bible? We see it in Noah's story. The Lord told Noah, to build an ark. Noah, he boarded it with his family, and they bobbed around in the water for 40 days and 40 nights, and then by the 38th day, Noah must have been thinking, "This is impossible. I'm so tired of hanging out with a bunch of stinking animals. Will we ever find dry land?" And then in Genesis 8:1, it says, "But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and livestock with him in the boat. He sent a wind to blow across the earth, and the floodwaters began to recede." But God. And we see it in the story of Joseph. Joseph, he was sold into slavery by his brothers. He was falsely accused of a terrible crime by Potiphar's wife and then sent to prison. Talk about an impossible situation. But you see, in prison, Joseph, he used his gift from God, for interpreting dreams to help Pharaoh's cupbearer. And the cupbearer was released, and, he went back to work for Pharaoh. When Pharaoh had a dream, he couldn't understand. The cupbearer recommended Joseph. Now, Joseph, he interpreted, the Pharaoh's dream, and then he became the second most, powerful man in Egypt. A famine struck the land. Joseph, he's put in charge of the food supply. And guess who came to Egypt, to buy food? Well, Joseph's brothers, the ones who had sold him into slavery. And then Joseph said to them in Genesis chapter 50, verse 20, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for all good. He brought me to this position so I could save the lives of many people." But God. I mean, not even, death has the final word. I mean, death seems so permanent, so hopeless. But we read in Psalm 49, verse 15, but God will redeem me from the realm of the dead. He will surely take me to himself, but God. I mean, how big is your problem? How big is your obstacle? How big is what you're facing today? Listen, the good news for you is that God is bigger. He's more powerful than anything that we're facing or we ever faced or we ever will face. And we can rely on God, in those situations. We can rely on God in any situation. And so anyway, I hope that encourages you here on this Friday morning. I hope you have a wonderful day. And as always on Friday, if you find yourself close to Hydro on Sunday morning and you don't have a place to worship, come join us at Hydro First Baptist Church. We would love for you to come and worship with us and fellowship with us. But anyway, I remember Angie and I, we love you guys and we're praying for you. And Lord willing, I'll see you soon. God bless you.